Our first construction meeting for this fiscal year, September 1922. We have the invocation by Dr. Williamson.
May we pray. Eternal God, we're thankful for who you are. We're thankful for your goodness, for your mercy, and for your grace. We're thankful for the life that you have allowed us to have and to continue to live. We do pray for our families, for our loved ones. Lord, we pray for this nation. We pray for this board. We pray for our school system, our families, our students, all of our employees. We depend on you for divine guidance. Help us, lead us, keep us. We thank you in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Williamson. First item is going to be design package for the new CTE school.
Good afternoon, or good afternoon. We are here today to bring you the design package that SFLNA has worked with their design team Loaded for Bear. So the central office team has reviewed the work that the team has done. Michael will walk through a presentation. At that point in time, we will have Michael also come up and walk through the previous selections that this committee has made for our new school. Mr. Herman is part of this as well, and I think Mr. Herman has brought his parent committee or members of his CTE committee with him, so that we have full representation of everyone from the community. So at this point in time, we're going to turn it over to Michael from Loaded for Bear.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate everybody's time today as we run through this. It's been an honor and a privilege to get to work with Mike and his team, Rachel as well, to help bring our work to life in a really, really awesome space. Let's see. All right, how's that? Everybody got my screen okay? All right, great. So just quickly to speak about some objectives that we started the project out with. Our goal, our number one objective was to build graphic solutions for the space that really mimic the look and feel of the state-of-the-art institution. So think about that as we look at some of the options and or selections that we finalized for y'all today. We want to develop a comprehensive wayfinding system that really speaks to that innovation of the space, and then design an interactive environment that delivers on a complete student experience. So this is what we like to call our vibe section, a little spot where we collect our thoughts and our inspiration from. Could have been past projects and successes from our office as well as others, but just some things that speak to the space and showcase where we found inspiration in our work. So without further ado, let's look at the new look for CTEC. So we came up with a new mark that you'll see that we run in some key locations throughout the space. So as we highlight the way that the space has a large central atrium or corridor that helps connect all of these spaces together, we've created that visually within the type lockup that you see here today. So think this uniformity in the characters, right? This is a place for everyone, so all of the characters are very evenly spaced and matched. We've also created these interesting little pathways, right? So think openness, think that it represents that corridor, and then that kind of equals that vocational track that you see throughout the space. So picking up and highlighting on the wonderful interior palette that SFLA's crew has pulled together for us, you'll see where we've matched that in with colors that we've created interesting names to go with that could play into the space, but also to just cover all of our bases for different applications throughout. And here's just a quick slide that kind of showcases that color palette in with the type of graphics treatments, both horizontal just by itself, horizontal with full lockup, and then a vertical orientation just to give you some versatility in the kit as we see it roll out throughout the space. In terms of typography, we selected a typeface that is a clean, bold sans serif face that will tick the box from a compliance standpoint when we have to run this for our ADA life safety and wayfinding applications, but that just feels very clean and very timeless. So it'll look great today as well as 20 years from now. Moving on into our exterior signage. So here we had a few key sections and moments to demarc the exterior of the building. So here you'll see here in our elevations as well as rendered here slightly. So again, just very clean, very simple. I think the G here, lower section of the screen represents a finished example of what you'd see from just a very clean reversed channel halo lit light, just to mark that sign of the building there. And here, kind of punctuating the exterior, you know, we've made the decision to run just our name highlighted in a very similar fashion, but with a punch of color here. I know initially we had had some discussions about having the full seal run in this location, but after some careful consideration and understanding the detail and the intricacy of that seal, it was going to limit us a little bit in terms of applications that how we could actually produce that sign, and was really going to be limited to a cabinet sign with an acrylic face with just a vinyl application applied to it. So we're going to have an awesome solution for that I think is going to make everyone really happy there here in a few slides. So here's stepping back upon arrival, where we are proposing this really cool vertically orientated, solidly constructed sign there that we feel like is going to be an awesome moment to gather for that Instagram moment, to punctuate and really demarc that nice transition down the corridor space there to our main entrance, and really just punctuate that drop off experience there. So here's where you can kind of see this detailed out in a further application here. And again, just to make sure that we took care of a wonderful location to run this. So we're proposing either stamped directly in the concrete or an aluminum installation that's poured and literally just flush mounted right upon your threshold, as well as some etch mark vinyl that is applied directly to the glazing there on our main entrance door, so that you can't walk through the door without walking right over our seal here, as well as there's a wall application that you kind of can't see to the right hand side of this render here as well. So moving into further into the building here, into our wayfinding system. So we've found inspiration that we've taken from a lot of the materiality that was in the planetarium and some of these other shapes and forms that will be noted a little further in the deck. So that's why that beautiful little irregular shape is used to denote our key designations for our different labs or mechanic spaces there, and a different color application too, just to showcase how it can be a little bit darker, a little bit lighter in application, and some renders here so you could see the application. So that color bar would be flush, just flat on the wall, and then dimensionality with the type to just allow it to have a little bit of shadow and a little bit of visual interest throughout. So in both of those color ways that you see there. Okay, so here's an example of kind of extending that shape out into further applications within the signage system itself. So again, kind of taking these geometric shapes and forms from the planetarium, and then applying that to something as simple as our ADA bathroom signage that you see here. Again, expanding upon the system for our main corridor and treating that with a similar dimensional type with just a little bit of an edge detail, and weaving that in for the tops of our labs in the main atrium there too. So extending that to the next phase would have been our mural system, in a way to really inject some life into the space from a color, and then again those geometric shapes. So here was a base pattern that we had started to apply that has beautiful shapes and a beautiful color palette here that really picks up and highlights from some of these key details within the physical space itself. So be it structural beams, trusses, to decorative panels, to even that cool wall treatment that you see on the ceiling there on the lower right hand side, and trying to find inspiration and angles within the space itself, and then highlight that on flat surfaces that you see here. So we've designed this in mind that it could be in a couple of different applications, either a applied wall vinyl that soaks up the texture of the wall that mimics paint, or with these very simple geometric shapes that also too just coating with paint is going to be an option. So we've got the ability to look at either some value engineering solutions in a couple of different instances there too. So here's where you see that in elevation and now rendered out into the physical space. Here you can highlight and see carpentry and all of the different labs that we saw from a previous slide in application here as well. We've got some other fun instances where we can actually take these color bars and run them on the flooring surfaces. Again, this could be completely decorative. This could be a wayfinding moment. This could be something once the building opens up as some welcoming information or things that can kind of come and go. We've had great successes with them in all of those applications in previous projects. So again, just a little different render so you could see how the corridor plays and how the colors really bring to life some of the other existing finishes that's in the space already, but done so in a way that's just a little bit here and there as to not draw too much attention to them. Nice shot here too, just to see this, how the angles within the labs themselves really come to play and highlight key specific walls. Not every wall, just an accent wall within each space that provides some interest there. So again, just seeing that in a few different applications throughout the labs themselves, and even carrying that motif into the crosswalks upon arrival, so that you get a little peep of that in key moments, but then you get that really cool wow factor when you walk in the door. Also, you can see there far bottom right that cool vertical monument or sculpture piece there at arrival. All right, great. So one of the favorite things that we had to really work with was this beautiful, the planetarium is pretty cool. You don't get to work on those very often, but then the science center that's adjacent to it was a really wonderful space. It had a massive wall that was really, really a cool place to punctuate. And to take some of these geometric shapes that we have been working with, deconstruct those a little bit, but then provide a really beautiful moment to kind of highlight not only the planetarium and the telescope that's outside, right behind it, but then this really cool, astronaut and planetarium, and just this really beautiful textures that use the space that's got some nice verticality to the right to highlight that rocket ship, and then it's really cool, really awesome little spot. So it's just a few details and vignettes from this area. And last but certainly not least, right outside of this corridor was a beautiful, really cool sculptural moment as it relates to this suspended acrylic panels that mimic our planetarium, or our planets rather, in a really just loose way, but that also are going to provide, this is kind of looking up at the ceiling, if you will, beautiful light transfer, and just a really neat sort of take on that wasn't literal, but that just highlights and lets all of the beautiful natural light that's going to come through that glazing track and provide cool shadow details and highlights throughout the space as the sun tracks throughout the sky. So that's that runs quickly through our presentation for today. Bobby or Mike, did you have anything else that you'd like to add?
So just to backtrack just a little bit, all throughout the building, we're going to ensure that we say the public schools of Robeson County, because again, we know this is our building. So in places throughout the presentation, you may have seen Robeson County. We're going to change that to make sure it says the public schools of Robeson County.
Yeah, thank you for that. We tracked to make sure that we had our science center illustration down great, but we'll make sure to pick that up too. So I know Herman had highlighted that on a previous call as well. So thanks, Bobby. Appreciate that.
Okay.
I think I was asleep about the first sentence or two. All those colors, the colors that's shown here, that's the way it look inside. Those colors.
Yeah, that's the idea. We have I don't know where that board ran on.
It's right here.
Oh. This is the color palette for the school, with all the materials and the colors. Do realize you were looking at a screen, and
Right,
multiple screens
right.
that have different colors, so that's why we have this here. So this will give you a better representation.
Well, my comment on the colors, and I'm not on the committee, folks, but so that up there with those orange and blues and whites,
Yep.
that will be in the building.
Yeah, that was the background kind of
Well,
graphics.
I'm just gonna say, I'm glad it's not one dull color throughout the building. I like that. For what it's worth, that's just me. I like those colors. Some people might not, but I like something like that color. I know everybody probably was, but I mean, to me, that's just different. I like it.
But that's one of the reasons why we want to bring the board, because when you're presenting or even doing renderings and stuff, it's hard to colors are very difficult to understand. So we can have a real good up close look at these, and plus understanding it with the rest of the materials in the building as well, which we can walk you through at a later point. Is there any other questions?
I think everything looks really good. My only question would be, when we have our joint meeting with the county commissioners, any way we can show this PowerPoint or parts of it to them? That way we can keep them in the loop as well.
I got one question. Is there any way we can kind of integrate the 5 high school colors in there somewhere on something?
Sorry, integrate what again?
We got 5 high schools, and all the kids from all 5 is gonna come there. Is there any way we can kind of integrate something that's representing all schools there with the colors from each school?
Do you have those school colors that you can send me, or I mean, I think we'd have to just look at how it plays in, because a lot of these colors are based off the material palette, so the terrazzo and stuff like that. So I don't quite understand. I guess I don't know all your school colors, so
Yeah.
But I think, what I'm reading, Mr. Simmons, and it may not be the true vision, if you think about Colonel Sweat, I think has something when they combined all the schools.
Yeah.
There's one spot.
Yeah, out front there, like that, something like that.
So I'm sorry, but I think what I'm kind of envisioning is something I think Purnell Sweat has when they built Purnell Sweat. There's a wall or somewhere, I don't know where, that has like the 4 schools that combined.
Yeah,
Maybe something of that. Maybe we can pick somewhere to put something like that.
yeah, something like that, where it represents all the schools. Yeah, I think Purnell's is right there when you come in, where the kids come in. I think that's where it's at.
And Mr. Herman says that they had something similar to that at the Career Center. So we may look at that, and we can share that information with both Michaels.
any other questions? Does anybody want to take a closer look at the material board, and give any questions about where these materials are going and stuff like that? How do you want to play this?
So just to refresh everyone's memory, we met sometime last year, and we had the construction committee come in. We had a whole palette of materials, and so we kind of walked through what needed to be in each space. So what Michael and his team have been able to put together for us is a board of those selections that we've made. So again, I think he's got those highlighted in here. The one thing, if you look back at the presentation, one of those classrooms looked like it had blue carpet in it. And I said, we're not putting carpet there, but no, it's one of the blue floorings that we have here. So again, this gives us a total representation of all the materials and colors that are going to be represented in the buildings. And what the 2 larger pieces we have here, to refresh your memory again, this is the planetarium dome, or the covering of the dome. And when you look at it, you can see there's several different colors represented there. And the next sample we have there, that is the ceiling that's going to be used throughout parts of the building.
So in the main kind of media, like kind of lobby space, that's where that wood ceiling comes in. The large majority of that large open space. It does. It's a color shift paint. So if you usually brought it over by the window, actually, probably even if you did that, you just kind of rotate it, you'll see it goes from like a green to a purple through like the blues. And like a different.
Wait to the camera, Herman.
Yeah, so you can see as the different angles, it'll pick up a purple or a green or a blue. And so basically, it's going to be a cylinder. So you can have all these different angles on a cylinder that's constantly curving and you're driving by. So that thing is just going to constantly be changing colors as you move. And so it's good. And even when you're just parking and walking to the building, you're going to see that change. Really interesting.
Are you the one that can answer this or just update us per se? Where are we at far as coming in off 7-Eleven? I know that was a question that we had last time. Is that we still want to turn in Comtech and come around? Is that still?
Yeah, that's currently where we're at with DOT.
But to also give you an update to that as well, DOT is going to pick up the road from the edge of Livermore. I'm thinking that I'm use my old country boy language where that ditch is at. And their DOT is going to pay for that road to coming into the career center. So that is a cost that we will not absorb. And there is conversation, of course, later on down the road that there may be an entrance off 7-Eleven, but for right now, they're going to pick up that back entrance coming into the school.
We have designed the site to allow for that entrance in the future. We just couldn't convince DOT with just this project, but there may be opportunities in the future.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Hit your mic again.
So is that something when you talk to our representatives, senators and that sort of thing with the talk to DOT, is that something that needs to take place, conversations?
I
Or
think that's for the larger group here, have conversations about.
Former attorney is on the transportation board.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mr. Gray.
Does this here has where each of those are going, those writing on that, does that tell us where that particular item is going
A lot
or?
of things go in multiple spaces,
Multiple.
so they're not per space, but we can definitely talk to Rachel if you want. We can walk you
But that's just going to be throughout the building, everything you have.
Yeah, so like the terrazzo, for instance, we have the terrazzo, in like the main spaces.
Flooring. Mhm.
Your LVT floorings, those are the ones that are in your classrooms, and then the second floor will
Okay.
be the LVT. We have different accents paints. This acoustic ceiling here is going to be in the shops.
Okay.
Some of that sound, whereas the rest of the building has more of a standard ceiling tile, other than the wood that you're seeing there.
Okay.
So epoxy flooring is going in culinary and automotive.
Mhm.
We're getting a special flooring for that. But yeah. So
Yeah, that's fine.
We can walk through anything, any
Yeah,
questions anybody.
That's
has.
fine. If I could, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Trey, going back to what you're saying, conversation I had, because when we first started talking about coming off of 7-Eleven, one of the things I think I remember hearing was that Comtech wouldn't let you do it. That was, it was something against their things that would be the only entrance. Now, I had a conversation with who we dealt with earlier with Comtech, Mr. Roger Oxendine, and he said, as far as he knew, there was nothing in the Comtech, their guidelines that says you couldn't have another entrance. So I guess my point, if that is true, the only holdup from having another entrance is DOT. Is that as far as y'all know, the only, as far as coming in on down 7-Eleven,
Yes,
DOT stopping it, and it's not with Comtech?
yes.
Okay, then I'm like Mr. Randy, we need to contact the person that's on that DOT committee, among others. Because I definitely think there needs to be an entrance off of 7-Eleven.
On our previous meeting, I brought up an idea of emergency landing pad in the same area that we said that we was going to have the drone technology pad, and that would give us more of a capability probably of selling that idea to the transportation department, because that area is considered, when we look at geographically, we look at the county, that's pretty much close to the center of the county. So we could multi-purpose use that area if we could get that straight direct access. And an emergency landing pad, we already gonna put a smaller pad there, I understand, so that you would talking about a whole lot more cost other than maybe some lights.
So the drone area that we're designing outside, it will not have a pad. It will just be a grassy area. There will be a pad for students to stand, and that's just going to be a very small area. But the area in which they're going to fly the drones, that will not be paved or concrete at all. That's just be a grassy area over toward the Native Angel side of the property, if my mind's right.
I guess I wonder what the requirements are for considering something a landing spot. I know they do land in grass fields all the time. So are there requirements that makes it a specific landing spot? That's something else we need to look into.
I wonder, that might be something we can run by county commissioners also.
Because we have other locations too that could work, that wouldn't be drones, just in case there's a class going on, you might have other locations. But
Yeah. Mr. Bobby, the last time that we met, and like you were saying, probably in the last year, but anyway, there was a lady with y'all that was doing color contrast and stuff. Do you?
Miss Rachel?
Yeah, there she is.
Yes.
Why y'all got her head back there?
I asked her with her and Michael arguing
Yeah.
at one another because they
Yeah.
sat at opposite ends of the room. But she's the one, she's our color lady.
Okay, and I wanted to congratulate her on the colors she has done.
Don't give that to Mike.
I'm not excited for that one.
Any other questions?
But this is our color palette to keep. So we will have it anytime we need conversations about the school and be able to show off what the school's going to look like on the inside.
And I'll be around till after the meeting, so if you have any questions about this, feel free to come up and talk about it.
Bobby, is this at our next board meeting? Are we needing to approve anything, or is there anything that needs to happen here today?
No, we don't need any approval. We just wanted to give you the opportunity to look at what
Update.
the work the company had done and how that was incorporated to our previous work.
But I think we still need to share it with our.
Yeah,
board
we
members.
can. I will. Michael, if I can get the presentation from you, I will make sure all of our board members get that presentation that was shared. And if we need to cover it the next board meeting, we can, or just give it to you as information to look at.
Yes, sir, not a problem at all.
Mr. Herman, you have two of your parents with us on the committee. Can you introduce them, please? Three?
I'd much rather for them to just step forward and introduce themselves so that you know who they really are. Put faces with the names.
That'll work.
And who you represent.
Oh.
Who you work for.
Good evening or afternoon, everyone. Thank you guys so much for having us here. I am Patricia Hammonds with the Lumber River Workforce Development Board, and I work for the Lumber River Council of Governments. We're actually about to be neighbors at the new facility. I'm so excited for the public schools of Robeson County. This has been a long time coming. I've known Herman for a long time, and I'm very familiar with the Career Center, the Hilly branch is what we called it, but super excited about this. And it's is his name Michael, Mr. Carpenter. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. We cannot wait to see this come to pass. So we're super excited. But Herman, if you need us until then, just of course let us know. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you.
Mr. Herman owes me for having to come up here. I'm Shelley Jernigan. My son attended public schools for Robeson County. He's a senior at UNCG this year. I have a granddaughter who's 3 who will attend public schools in Robeson County. So I appreciate the opportunity to be involved, from seeing my son go through his education here and my granddaughter that's upcoming. I'm really excited about this project. Great.
So any other questions?
Mr. Bobby, if I could, with what John said, Mr. Simmons, getting those school colors in there or something, I think's a great idea. And I'm gonna ask too, I know they mentioned the school mascots or emblems from the schools. You know, I mean, just the thought, any way of getting them in there, but if you can have, like, if it's Lumberton, Red Springs, and you got a big picture and they're just placed, I mean, I don't know if you just put one in the school, but, because putting the colors in there, I don't know if they would know unless we put names, but if we get those mascots and stuff in there, I think it's a great idea. So I hope there's some way we can work that in.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next is request for name change at Purnell Sweat High, the baseball field, by Dr. Williamson.
Mr. Chairman and members, at your site is a request for a name change for Purnell Sweat to change the baseball field name from Purnell Sweat High School baseball field to Coach Ronnie Chavis baseball field, signed off and presented to us by the principal, Mr. Urbana. Our policy 9300 states that we share that request with this committee, with approval from this committee, then we move it forward to present it to the full board. And so I'm requesting your approval to add this to our board agenda to rename the baseball field at Purnell Sweat. Once you approve, if the full board approves that, then there will be a public hearing and then we bring it back. So next board meeting, we're simply requesting you to allow us to conduct that public hearing.
I make a motion that we approve it and get it sent to the next board meeting.
Before we vote, I wanted to, for public information, was the public in that area involved with this process, Dr. Williamson?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Any other discussions? Okay. Okay, Mr. Britt made a motion to accept it and bring it to the full board. Mr. Henry, seconded. All in favor by saying aye. All opposed?
Great, thank you.
Next is the 22 capital outlay projects from a high school track. Mr. Bobby.
So, excuse me, so part of our meeting tonight, we just wanted to provide you an update of where we're at on all of our capital projects that have been approved over the last few years. So one that is lingering from 21-22 is our Fairmont High School track project. They have, that track has been paved, the rubber coating is on it, and I believe at some point in time, they are going to get the striping taken care of there. So that is one project that has been around for the last 3 years. And what I've tried to do is include our costs on that project. And you can see our total cost for that is $472,000. We could not find any documentation of what we had budgeted or estimated for that project many years ago. But just to let you know, that's where the cost is at. So our projects that were approved last year for the 22-23 school year, and we begin working on those, I've listed all of those as completed or in progress or things we have not started. So line number 1, and I won't go through these one by one, but just to be able to show you what I have given you, is our Shining Stars renovations. You can see that project is completed. We had budgeted $1 million for that project. It actually cost us $852,000. So you can see that we overestimated that project. But if I look at the next line for our LED lighting at all of our high schools, we had originally estimated that project at $25,000, but it actually came in at $115,000. So we underestimated that project by $90,000. And we can go on and see that we have our roofs that are completed at 3 of our schools, another 2 high dollar projects that we underestimated. And again, these are not, the underestimation is not by our fault. Everybody understands how volatile the construction industry is at this point. So if you flip over on the back side, and we have to also take into account environmental issues and work site issues at each of our places. So we understand that we at Purnell Sweat, we had originally started with the tennis courts there of $140,000, but it ended up at almost $500,000. 2 things there, of course, was the work site, and also I think if my memory serves me correct, we went from 4 to 6 courts there. Our parking lot, again, we estimated that it would cost us about $250,000 to do Long Branch's parking. That particular work that we done there with paving the entire back, both sides, and did some at the bus entrance, came in at $825,000. And that is a project, again, that is still in progress. They are still working on the roof at Pembroke Middle. You can see the total cost when they finish that project is going to be about $37,000. We do have some additional projects that either we said place a pause on because we knew that the dollar amount we had originally estimated would not cover that. So one of those is the Red Springs High, and we discussed that last year. One of the things that we have tossed around for many years, probably before the 21-22 school year, was paving IEA parking. And we understand that $75,000 is not going to get us a lot at IEA. So we're going to explore the option with taking that $75,000, since it is already budgeted, and paving that horseshoe that is in front of the school, because we believe that would add a lot of aesthetics to the school, just simply going in and giving a facelift to the front of the school. And you can see the other projects that we have not started, again, because of either just the pricing is not where it needs to be. So we did meet last year, and luckily we have been able to complete a lot of these projects before the school year has ended or before the school year has even begun. So Cole, if you will scroll down for me. So one of the projects we decided to do in-house, not necessarily in-house, but not involve any engineers, where we were able to do the drop ceiling and LED lights at Oxendine. Also should have included in that P-tax, because we went in each one of those classrooms and removed the old 2900 air conditioning. If you think about old box air conditions, we did put P-tax in those classrooms. So you see, we had estimated that at about 102, and it ended up costing us about $130,000 there. We have completed the kitchen renovations at Shining Stars. They're walking through the final punch list there. The kitchen is up and operational. We do have a COA. We just need to do some minor things there before we open up that facility for complete use. We budgeted $700,000, and you can see that total project came in at $628,000. The last project that we are wrapping up for the 23-24 school year would be the modular units at St. Paul's High. I've put a footnote there. We had originally discussed leasing those, and I think we came back and made a decision that it was more beneficial to just go ahead and purchase those straight out. So that particular modular unit cost us a little over $680,000. We budgeted last year $450,000, excuse me, for setup, brick underpinning, ramps, decks, and connection to electrical. Our engineers have finally finished the design work there. Our pre-bid meeting is September the 21st, with bids coming in, of course, a week after that. with the anticipation that that unit would be up and ready for second semester. At this point in time, the only project that we are seeing, and this is a dire need, would be the roof at Townsend needs to be replaced, a portion of the building. We did do a portion some years back. And I actually had the opportunity to speak with one of our HVAC contractors over the summer, and he said that there were portions of the roof that had they stepped on, they would have fallen in. So that is one that we need to address. We're going to look at that more as an emergency than as a capital outlay project, because if not, we're just going to keep deteriorating the building and possibly put individuals in danger if we don't go ahead and address that. And based upon our estimate there, we're estimating about $680,000 to repair Townsend's roof. And that is not the entire school. That is only portions of the office area and a portion going back out toward the cafeteria. That is the older part of the building. It is not the newer part. I'm gonna call it old junior high part. When it's 7th and 8th grade was at the back. This is more the office complex and in and around the media center. And again, we did not include any of our ESSER here because, again, all of that work is included in ESSER. It's not necessarily capital outlay work.
Mr. Chair, if I may. So the estimated cost for the Townsend roof, let's say $700,000. Erica, we have those funds in our capital that as an emergency project, we can request the board to authorize that in our regular board meeting, contingent upon this group approving that. Is that correct? Okay.
Where do we stand with the items that we're in the red with? I realize we got some extra, looks like the first page is probably equaled out, but when we look at the second page, there's quite a bit of money there. I'm just wondering, are these funds, where do we stand with these funding concerns?
So as you see the totals, Mr. Brewer, that Mr. Bobby included, we're still actually to the good based on total costs. What we originally budgeted was 3.257, and so far we've spent $3,056,000. So we have the funds available there. And again, the initial budget parts were placeholders. We know once we got bids in, we always account for it. So the funding is available in the budget and it has been accounted for.
And so, Mr. Brewer, to follow up with that, that's why I added about St. Paul's at the bottom. During our meetings last year, we estimated the setup for those units will cost us about $450,000. We won't have any idea until a week or 10 days from now when those bids come in. It could, like many of the projects here, could come in less. But I think we probably need to be prepared that it's going to come in higher. Because that original $450,000 cost was just us doing the brick underpin. Our agreement with the town was that we would brick the entire unit. So yes, we know that it's going to be a little more than the $450,000.
And we should be in them by the end of December.
There's a lot of moving parts at St. Paul's. Our utility work is currently going on. If you've been by there, they've got the heavy machinery at the end. So that's the completion of that work will, us getting into the building is contingent upon that work being completed as well. But now those contractors had a 100-day window to complete that work. So again, as long as they don't get behind, we should have the ability to get in the building by second semester. So,
okay. Trey.
Question, obviously we're covered based off this paper right here, based off what's been said, and the $680,000, we've got enough to cover that, maybe $700,000 like Dr. Williams said. if we agree to the Townsend roof, and obviously St. Paul's is going to be a little bit more, we still should be covered, correct? That point there, do we have some in the bank is what I'm saying? Or are we running on a limb at that point?
We have, as it's been stated already, a lot of moving parts, Mr. Trey, and at this time, we would recommend just not doing anything unless it's an emergency. We also have our matching funds that we're going to have to start paying out as we move forward with the Career Technical High School. As a reminder, our match is $2.5 million. So we're phasing that in as we go along in the project. I'm not sure if we will have to commit the entire $2.5 million in this fiscal year. We're kind of taking that as we go, and we have going to sit down with the county. They also have a match of $2.5 million. So maybe if we don't have to spend that, we can come back and discuss additional projects. But all of those things are in the works right now that we have already committed. So the answer, I guess that was the long answer. The short answer is we just like to pause and see what the final, some of the projects come in with some final numbers before we move forward with any new commitments.
So Erica, I guess, what is our balance in our capital?
So right now we have a little over $6.5 million in fund balance in capital. So we have funding there, but again, we've got 2.5. I'm not sure based on the speed of the project with the Career and Technical High School, if we'll have to dip into that before we move into the other construction components and the county's funding and so forth. So the timing of all that is critical as to us making sure we are fluid enough to have that liquid if we need it and not in other commitments.
Mr. Bobby, where do we stand with the two structures we were going to build for Purnell Sweat and St. Paul's High? And what's the status as far as getting them started and completed?
Okay. Same conversation when we bid those two projects out. It actually came in doubled what we had originally allocated. So we had to go back and look at some other line items and make some adjustments and move some money around. Both of those projects have been bid out. So it's just a matter of us ensuring that the funds are moved in the right line item and sitting down and saying these are the individuals who are going to do the work for us. And both of those projects, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Brewer, have a 300-day timeline. So again, that still puts us into a late summer occupancy.
Also, Mr. Brewer, as Mr. Bobby indicated, the utility projects are, the buildings at St. Paul's are contingent on all of the utilities getting started and getting processed. So before those buildings can be completed, we'll have to have that utility work in place too.
Mr. Chair, what is the pleasure in reference to Townsend roof? Would this committee approve to move that forward to our agenda for our regular board meeting, please?
That's correct.
Well, you can do that. I just have some comments. I'm not on the actual committee, so you can go ahead and take a vote on Dr. Williamson's request.
I make a motion that we move it to the board for approval. If that's what needs to take place based off what Ms. Erica's told us, I feel good about it.
Okay, we got excuse me. Got a motion by Mr. Craig to go ahead and do the roof at Townsend, being deemed it as an emergency. I'm sorry, Trey. I'm sorry. Trey. And second by Mr. Henry. All in favor of saying aye? Aye. All opposed? Motion passed.
Now, Mr. John.
Go ahead.
Okay, couple of things. So with the buildings, sorry, and Mr. Bobby, I know St. Paul's has got to have that utility work. So Sweat doesn't necessarily have to have that. So is one contingent upon the other, or are we ready to go at Sweat as far as we're waiting sure the money's moved around and straightened out? I know we're going to do that before, because I know this young lady's not going to let us do nothing if it's not right. And I appreciate that. But is that basically where we're at with that, Ms. Erica?
Right. I mean, I think they if they can both move together because it's all going to be in the same budget. And we're just waiting. One's not going to come in at a different time than the other. So we're just waiting for that final budget approval.
Yeah,
So once that
okay.
happens, we should be able to move forward either way with both
Okay.
projects.
And there is some utility work that'll take
Yeah,
place at
because of
Sweat,
that.
but it's very minimal compared to what's
Compared.
having to happen at St. Paul's High.
Okay, couple of other things. Folks, I think probably everybody's been in here, but there has been a tremendous amount of work done in this county in schools in the last, I could say, I almost just say 4 years. Because one thing that's happened with construction, finance, people's come in and we've done this, put this on paper, and then we stuck to it and got it done with roofs and all, which I think is fantastic. And the public really don't know that. So I'm saying that, Mr. Bobby, to say this. If at the next board meeting, if you went back 4 years and just could get us a list, and I don't need the cost, just get us a list of the roofs. And this is a massive undertaking, unless Miss Erica's probably got every bit of it down. But what roofs have been done, the things that's been done in the schools that's with capital outlay, it's been major jobs. It would be nice just to have a list to look and see on paper, HVAC. I'm saying all that stuff that's been done for us to look at. And then if all this year was put together, just, okay, now this is what we're working on. Because what we've done is stayed focused on whatever was to be done. Now, I will say this about the tennis courts, and you tell me anyone if I have permission. There's 2 new buildings going up in Pembroke, and there's paving going on out there. And I've been trying to catch the company to see if they'd just walk with me or ride the IEA and just give us that circle and whatever else, and no obligation to us. Is that okay? Because this company, I think, is from Bladenboro, and I think they might be done some paving for us. It's called Sykes, and they're doing those 2 facilities being built now. So just to get a rough idea to get started, because like the 75,000 has been there for probably 3 or 4 years since we dealt with the land. And I'm trying to get up what the college was going to do. They postponed all their work to next summer to make sure we got that boundary in the back whenever we get and they get to what they're doing there. The other thing I would like, it's been mentioned to me, so this is not an emergency, but it's not on here. So I'd like for the committee to consider putting this on there at Pembroke Elementary. There's 2 items that the principal has discussed with me. If you ever been in Pembroke Elementary's gym, it's, I guess, a gymtorium. There's a stage in there. And there's been discussion over the years of taking that stage out because it's not used that much, but the gym is used basically every day, which I think is probably something that, our maintenance people could look at doing. Of course, now when you take something out that's covered up, you're not sure what you're going to find under it. And I know there's a floor, you can see the edge of the floor if you look, but just as something that could be put on and looked at a later date. And there's also been a request there for bleachers in the gym. What's in there is very short, and it doesn't come close, and probably the same case at other schools, but they do need more bleachers. So that was 2 things. And I know that's not nowhere near like the emergency of what's at Townsend, but it's just the idea of getting it placed on here so it can be looked at a later time. Thank you.
I don't see you. Hit your button again. Uh-oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. John, I would also like to add.
Hit your button again. I don't know why it's not coming on.
I'd like to also make a recommendation upon board approval that we give the superintendent, Dr. Freddie Williamson, authorization to coordinate with county commissioners, just giving us a handshake in whatever projects they're helping us with to make them aware of what we're completing. So they're noted we are putting these monies to good use.
Okay, I think that would be something we could talk about at our next meeting when we have with them, which it should be coming up pretty soon. Any other questions? Yeah. All right, thank you, Mr. Bob.
Thank you.
All right, being there's no more questions, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. As of now, we'll adjourn. Sorry, go ahead. Got a motion by Mr. Brett, second by Mr. Henry. We'll adjourn. Thank y'all.